What's really funny to me is that Ed Herman, one of the pioneers of Team Quest and a guy that you have so much to remember him for. Now I'll only ever remember him for the Mikey Rodriguez fake groin shot into a submission victory. I mean, when they say you're in the fight of your life, you're in the fight of your life. And if you believe in that argument and sportsmanship is a little questionable, then, Ed Herman's your guy because he pulled off something that a lot of people find hella controversial, but to each their own. And in this fight, he's getting a guy like Alonzo Menifield, right? And we've just talked about how, previous era versus new age era type of fighter. The one thing about Ed Herman right now is for his age at the weigh-ins, he looked phenomenal. I was very impressed with how he looked. Energy seemed to be there. All of those things that you want to look for was all present with Big Eddie. And the thing with Alonzo that we really liked is, what are the chances of losing to OSP than finishing your next fight via Von Flue choke? He had to take on Fabio Charant, best nickname ever, the Water Buffalo, on short notice because William Knight wasn't able to make that fight, but he absolutely, demolished Charant in that fight. Was able to get a takedown almost instantly off the cage in a clinch position and just finished it via Von Flue pretty quickly. I think that was one of the very first times we saw him truly utilize some of the more technical style of finishing. He's such a big game striker, and he really was finishing fights early before the UFC. And I think that he's been able to kind of get a lot of good experience under his belt, even with a Paul Craig finish, already there. And that's where I kind of like this fight, right? If Ed Herman is able to get out of this first round or push this up into, his favorite areas of the fence and the clinch game, things like that, Team Quest 101, this is a very close fight. I think that Ed Herman has all the ability in the world to take a punch and eke out victories in the second and third rounds. And is there a better fighter to do that against, especially when you have that technical skill to eliminate that striking game, push him up against the fence? Because if Alonzo's not throwing big bombs and landing early, I think that the tiring out, all of that fun stuff, I think Ed Herman's really good at going to the body, combos, all that kind of stuff. It's just he's really good at all of those things that, would break anybody. And I think that's where you see him come away with some of these, interesting wins on the flip side. But outside of that, it's, the Menifield, MO is big first rounds. And if he does have a big first round, I can even see him finally looking like that 3-round fighter who's able to do big damage late. Because for me, that's the one thing that scares me is if Ed Herman deals with the damage in the first, how is Alonzo Menifield going to look in the second and third rounds after all the output? And how good is Ed Herman going to be, especially without the opportunity to, fake groin shots and things like that? So for me, I'm going to actually go Alonzo Menifield. I really liked the version of Alonzo that we saw in his last fight. We didn't get to see him for long, but the approach, the game plan, everything like that just looked really good. And I think that it's going to be a lot tougher of a fight than some people think with how Ed Herman can be in those gritty areas. And so let's take a look at the lines. I think that might even dictate my pick right now. But, Ed Herman opens as a plus 120 dog and a plus 210 on average type of closer. Jesus. And Alonzo Menifield, minus 140 opening favorite, now a minus 250. I got to say, man, we're going to go with Alonzo Menifield on the Pick'em here, but I would not be surprised if Ed Herman pulls this one out. And like I said, always check the picks on Twitter and Instagram for the final say. Get me to 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube, and we'll get that in the communities tab moving forward. But till then, I mean, let's go Alonzo Menifield on a pick and maybe a dog play here in terms of money bets. We'll see how that goes. Stay tuned for that.